The High Court of Empyra stood like a monument to both majesty and menace, a dome of pure obsidian, ringed by levitating gears and shimmering arc lanterns powered by the city's ever-pulsing techno-core. Inside, the air was dense with tension. Drones hovered silently above, their lenses blinking red as they recorded every motion, every breath. Scarlett stood at the center of the tribunal platform, her posture regal, but her heart pounding like a drum in the void. Across from her sat the 7 sovereign judges, draped in flowing chroma silk robes, faces obscured behind masks made of tempered star glass, each mask etched with a symbol representing a founding house of Empyra. Behind Scarlett, the chamber, overflowed with aristocrats, officials, technocrats, and curious citizens drawn to the spectacle of the young princess accused of treasonous ambition. The prosecution's voice echoed through the chamber, amplified by the court's resonance fields. Lord Tavron, a traditionalist noble from House Argan, stepped forward with oily confidence. This young woman, barely of age, dares to bypass the rites, ignore the high codex, and usurp the throne before the Ascension Convergence. She speaks of change, of revolution. But what is revolution, if not chaos? Empyra has thrived on order, not dreams. Scarlett did not flinch. She let the silence hang, like a blade before stepping forward. "I speak of survival," she said, her voice steady, slicing through the chamber. "Your laws were forged in an age of starlight peace. That age is over. Our enemies gather in the shadows of orbit. Our people suffer beneath gilded ceilings. I do not seek to break Empyra. I seek to rebuild her into something worthy of our ancestors' legacy." A low murmur rippled through the audience. Judge Varel, the most senior of the 7, leaned forward. "And yet, you defied the Codex. You took the mantle of the Iron Scepter without council consensus." Scarlett's eyes glinted. "The Codex was written for a world that no longer exists. I will not wait for bureaucracy to hand me permission while our skies burn." Then came the counterproof, footage of her secret meetings, her alliance with the rogue House Nithra, even her manipulation of the Archmenders to awaken the Crown engine early, all laid bare on glowing holoplates. Still she stood tall. Scarlett turned to the chamber. "I do not deny what I've done. I deny that it was wrong." A silence fell so complete it was as if the chamber itself was holding its breath. Then Judge Varel's hand moved to the verdict dial, a relic from the pre-collapse era. It glowed, scanning the room's emotional resonance fields and the spoken testimonies. The mechanical heart of Empyra would decide. The dial spun, click, 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 until it stopped on the symbol of the sigil flame, trial by destiny. Gasps broke out. Scarlett's trial would not be resolved by law, but by ordeal. "You shall face the crucible at dawn," said Varel. "If the ancient flame deems you worthy, you shall be queen. If not, ashes." Scarlett nodded once. Let the fire come. The grand coronation hall of Celestara, the capital city of Empyra, shimmered with refracted light from the twin suns above. Towering crystal spires adorned with silver filigree surrounded the vast chamber, their tips humming with stored energy. The room was filled with nobles, scientists, philosophers, and warrior clans from every quadrant of the planet, each one draped in the ceremonial fabrics of their houses. Yet no jewel, no robe, no symphony of color could outshine the woman walking between the radiant pillars of light. Princess Scarlett. No, Queen Scarlett now. She stepped slowly down the central aisle of the hall, her gait regal and deliberate. The crowd was silent, holding its collective breath. Her ceremonial armor, sleek, iridescent, crafted from star steel, hugged her like a second skin. A flowing violet cape trailed behind her, embroidered with the sigil of House Lyoran, a flaming phoenix rising from an eclipse. At the head of the hall, atop a throne sculpted from meteorite stone and woven with vines of living bioluminescent flora, stood the Council of Empyra, representatives of each sector, her former challengers, and now her staunchest allies, Archon. Drevian, once her fiercest rival, was the one to raise the circlet of inheritance. Forged over 5 centuries ago, it bore the embedded crystal hearts of the planet's ancient AI oracles, beings of sentient light and immense wisdom, with reverence. In his eyes, he approached her. "Kneel, Queen of Empyra," Drevian said, his voice echoing. Scarlett lowered herself, her eyes closing for a fleeting second. In that breath, she saw it all again, the betrayal of her uncle, the desolation of the sapphire forest, the rising of the rebellions, the sacred duel atop the skybridge, the tears. In her mother's eyes during her final hours, the whisper of her father in a dream. "You were born for more than peace. You were born for balance." The circlet touched her brow, and the room ignited in a wave of light, a symphony unlike any composed. Erupted, strings that hummed with cosmic resonance, drums pulsing like the heartbeat of the planet. The AI oracles, dormant for a century, awakened in her presence. A radiant halo of symbols floated around her, ancient Empyrean glyphs alive and glowing. She stood, Queen Scarlett, crowned by not only tradition, but by Empyra itself. The planet had chosen her, not merely as ruler, but as guardian. The crystal core beneath the city trembled in acknowledgement. The ancient biomechs in the outer reaches lit their eyes for the first time in centuries. Weather patterns stilled for a moment, as if the skies were holding back the storm to witness this moment. In the crowd, young girls and boys looked on, with wonder. Rebels who once raised arms now lowered their heads in humble awe. Foreign diplomats shifted in nervous curiosity. And above it all, hovering silently, were the invisible watchers, minds of light from beyond the stars, observers of Empyra's fate. Even they dared not interfere now. Queen Scarlett turned to face her people. Her voice, when it came, did not shout. It resonated. Empyra was forged in brilliance and broken by arrogance. But we have endured. I do not come to rule by might, but by purpose. I will lead not from a throne alone, but among you, in every lab, every battlefield, every starlit outpost. The time of division is over. The new age is not mine alone. It is ours. Let Empyra rise again, not as a fractured world, but as a beacon to the stars. The hall erupted. Applause, cries, stamping feet, joyful chaos, and above the planet, the ancient orbital rings realigned. A message was pulsed into the void. Empyra is reborn. The phoenix has risen. The final image, Queen Scarlett standing at the balcony of the spire, wind tearing through her cape, eyes fixed on the horizon, not of her world but beyond it, because now that she had united Empyra, her gaze turned toward the stars. The halls of the Celestara archives whispered of secrets long entombed in glass. Scarlett stood alone at the threshold of the vault of reveries, where time was said to fold upon itself, and truth lay suspended in echoes. Her guards waited behind the sealed door. Only a royal soul could pass through the resonance gate, and she was about to find out if she truly belonged. She stepped forward. A low hum rippled through the air as her pulse synced with the crystal vein. Ah, arch. The door shimmered, then split apart like liquid obsidian, revealing a chamber bathed in silver-blue light. Inside, the temperature dropped. Her breath frosted in the air. At the heart of the chamber stood the Mirror of Queens, a monolithic sheet of living glass framed in Empyrean vines, eternally blooming with cold fire. Legend said it held the memories of every queen who had ever ruled Empyra. It did not speak. It showed. Scarlett approached, her reflection warping as she drew closer. It blinked, and suddenly she was no longer alone. The mirror bloomed with images, not reflections, but visions. Queen Aralinth, the warrior empress, bathed in blood and glory. Queen Syria, the peacemaker, dissolving planetary hostilities with a single gesture. Queen Verena, the betrayer, signing a pact that doomed half the sector to silence. Each queen looked directly at Scarlett, judging, measuring. She swallowed, her pulse steady despite the storm in her stomach. "I am not them," she whispered. The mirror did not reply in words, but the image changed. Now it showed her, not as she was, but as she could be. Crowned in starlight, her eyes alight with ancient fire, behind her a world torn between wonder and war. In her hands, justice and flame. But then the image fractured. A second vision followed, darker. Scarlett as a tyrant queen, the throne dripping with shadows, her court silenced by fear, her voice a decree, her heart hollow. "No," she stepped back. "That's not me." The glass pulsed, one last vision. This time it showed the choice. A future not yet written, a throne that could heal or destroy, a crown that would either burn or bloom. Scarlett knelt. "Show me who I must become to save them." The mirror trembled, and out of it stepped a shape, a translucent echo of a woman. Queen Neria, first sovereign of Empyra. "You must become more than blood, more than name. You must be fire and rain, love and wrath. You must choose Empyra before you choose yourself." Scarlett whispered, "I will." The mirror dimmed. The chamber sighed. A glyph etched itself into her palm, the mark of royal recognition. As she stepped out of the vault, the guards looked at her and knew. Princess Scarlett was no longer seeking approval. She had just been chosen by every queen before her, and destiny was now watching. The throne room was cold. Scarlett stood before the obsidian dais, surrounded by walls carved from a mineral found only in the ancient underbelly of Empyra, lunacite, a glistening stone that pulsed faintly in the dark. The vast chamber, once echoing with voices of counsel and celebration, now felt hollow, empty, as if the room itself had recoiled from what had transpired. She was alone. At least, she thought she was. Her hand hovered just above the armrest of the throne, the same place where her mother, Queen Alaris, had once rested her palm, adorned with rings that told stories of 100 peace treaties, rebellions, and triumphs. Scarlett hesitated. Was this seat of power rightfully hers, or was it a curse wrapped in velvet? A sharp click echoed in the silence. Behind her, a section of the floor gave way, an ancient mechanism unlocking for the first time in centuries. Dust rose like smoke as a spiral staircase revealed itself, descending into a glowing abyss beneath the palace. Scarlett turned, her heart a war drum inside her chest. The AI construct, Lyrix, flickered to life beside her, his projection now. Fully humanoid, cloaked in shimmering data strands. "This wasn't on the architectural schematics," he said, his voice laced with intrigue. "Sub-level theta, completely sealed off from the central core net. I'm unable to scan it." Scarlett didn't reply. Her boots made no sound as she stepped toward the opening. The air shifted, older, colder, as if time itself had been sealed away beneath the palace. She descended without a word, Lyrix following, casting shards of light against the dark stone. The staircase seemed to go on forever. Finally she emerged into a cavernous chamber. Unlike the sterile elegance of the palace above, this place was raw and ancient. Giant crystalline pillars grew out of the ground, emitting a faint hum that resonated in her bones. And at the center of the room stood a sarcophagus, not stone, not metal, but made of something alive, something alien. The lid was inscribed with a symbol she had seen only once before, in the dream she had as a child when her mother had died. "Who built this?" she whispered. Lyrix approached cautiously. "Not humans, not emperors. This predates the founding of the monarchy, possibly even the colonization of Empyra itself." Scarlett felt it in her mind before she heard it, whispers. 1,000 voices overlapping and weaving through each other like threads of wind in a storm. She reached out and placed her hand on the sarcophagus. The moment her skin met the surface, The world exploded with light. Memories not her own slammed into her consciousness, visions of starships swallowing worlds, empires lost to time, and a being with eyes like dying stars whispering, "The throne is a lie. The crown is a cage, but beneath it is the key." She stumbled back, gasping. "What did you see?" Lyrics asked. Scarlett looked at him, her eyes filled with something ancient, something awakened. "I think this world wasn't just built," she said slowly. "It was buried. And we've been living on top of something far older, far more powerful." A low rumble quaked through the chamber. Above them, alarms began to wail through the palace. A breach? But not from outside. From within. Scarlett turned toward the staircase. Her heartbeat was steady now, her fear tempered into resolve. "There's more to Empyra's legacy than politics and power," she said, "and I intend to uncover all of it." The whispers were still with her, just behind her thoughts. They were not malevolent. They were waiting. For her. The moon above Empyra hung in the sky like a crystalline shard, refracting the city's lights in 1,000 shades of cold silver. From the balcony of the obsidian palace, Princess Scarlett Verlith watched the bustling capital below, its glass. Towers humming with energy, its skyways glowing with soft neon trails as hover carriages streaked through the air. Yet none of this beauty reached her tonight. Her mind was a storm. Inside the palace, preparations for her coronation had begun. Seamstresses fluttered about like moths, draping her in veils of stardust silk and attaching crystalline embroidery, shaped like the sigils of House Virolith. Courtiers practiced ceremonial scripts, architects reinforced the Ascension throne for her grand seating, and her advisors, the Chancellor, the Spire Council, the voice of the machine, held strategy. Sessions she was expected to lead. It was all a performance, and she knew it. Because while Empyra saw a graceful, poised princess ascending with dignity, Scarlett knew the truth. The throne was under siege, and it wasn't from the stars above, but from the shadows within. Earlier that day she had ventured into the Mirror Archives, a vaulted chamber beneath the palace where the memory crystals of past monarchs were stored. Access to the vault was strictly limited, but Scarlett's bloodline permitted her entry. It was here, among shelves that hummed with ghostlight, that she discovered a crystal bearing her mother's mark, Queen Lavara's final memory. With trembling fingers she inserted the sliver into the synapse diadem, and her vision was consumed by a torrent of images. She stood beside her mother, not as a daughter, but as an echo. Lavara was afraid, not of war, not of death, but of betrayal. "They have already infiltrated the Spire Council," the Queen whispered in the memory. "They wear our sigils, they speak our oaths, but their loyalties lie with the Coalition of Veil, those who seek to fracture Empyra and install a false Queen. Scarlett, if you see this, you must trust no one, not even those who claim to love you." When the vision ended, Scarlett was no longer the girl everyone thought they knew. Her spine stiffened, her breath slowed, and for the first time in her life, she tasted fear and the bitterness of inherited danger. That night, she summoned Kale. He arrived through the hidden passage in her bedchamber, a secret only the two of them shared since they were children. Kale was no ordinary palace guard. He had been raised alongside Scarlett, trained in both swordplay and subterfuge, and bore a loyalty deeper than duty. "There are traitors," she told him in a low voice, eyes flicking to the sealed door. "In the Spire Council. My mother knew. She tried to stop them before she died. I believe they killed her." Kyle's face hardened. "Then we hunt them. From the inside." "No," she said, gripping his wrist. "We outplay them. I will take the throne in 5 weeks, Kale. They expect a girl in a crown. Let them see her. Let them think I'm naive. But beneath that veil, we build something they cannot see coming." "A counter-council?" "A loyal shadow court," she said, "hidden in plain sight." The days that followed were a dance of deception. Scarlett laughed at banquets and recited diplomatic platitudes, all while memorizing the voting patterns of counselors and charting their alliances. She accepted gifts with a queen's grace while secretly scanning them for surveillance. Tech. Kale infiltrated records of trade convoys, discovering funds being siphoned from the royal treasury into phantom companies registered to Counselor Arden Solon, a man once praised for his unshakable integrity. She began to recruit allies, discreetly, a blind engineer from the underlevels who could hack into the neural spire without detection, a dismissed war tactician exiled for refusing unethical orders, even a member of the clergy willing to commit heresy in service of the realm's true heir, and all the while the mask of the obedient sheltered princess remained perfectly in place. On the seventh night, during a royal gala thrown in her honor, Scarlett danced beneath the crystalline chandeliers of the Skyborn Hall. Dressed in shimmering midnight and laughing with her supposed suitors, she was the image of nobility. But just before midnight, she excused herself and walked alone to the moon garden. Kyle was waiting. They moved another 10 million credits, he said, disguised as a medical relief fund. Arden is consolidating influence. Scarlett exhaled slowly. Then let them all keep playing their game. The queen they think they're crowning is the one I've let them imagine. Kale tilted his head. And the real queen? Scarlett turned to face the distant, spires piercing the moonlight. She's still in the dark, she whispered, but not for long. Her fingers brushed the crystal pendant she wore, a piece of her mother's crown, repurposed into a reminder. And as the artificial wind swayed the silver leaves around her, she vowed, I will take the throne. Not as a girl hiding behind tradition, but as the storm they never saw coming. Rain fell gently over Empyra's glimmering towers as dusk blurred the line between sky and ground. From the crystal spire, the palace's highest point, Princess Scarlett descended into the hidden corridors beneath the royal estate, her footsteps echoing softly along the marbled passageway, lit by bioluminescent vines that pulsed with an otherworldly blue. Tonight was not for court, not for advisors, not for the mirror of smiles she wore in public. It was for secrets. Guided by memory, she passed a series of crystalline locks that responded only to her blood. At the end of the corridor, an ornate door made of silverthorn wood and imbued with ancient glyphs opened with a sigh. Beyond it, a forgotten sanctum bloomed with twilight. The mirror garden. Here, trees didn't grow. They remembered. Every branch was a memory, every petal a whisper of the past. In the center, a wide obsidian pool mirrored the sky, though the stars it reflected had not shone for millennia. This was where Scarlett came to speak with her mother, not in voice but in resonance. Queen Avalyn had died when Scarlett was 13, but the mirror garden still held her presence. Scarlett knelt beside the pool and dipped her fingers into the cold surface. The water shivered. Images began to swirl, flickering visions of the young queen who once ruled not with iron or gold but with empathy sharp as glass. Her mother's face appeared not just as memory, but as a construct held together by neural imprint and the planet's psychogenic field. "You are troubled," said the voice. Not a sound, but a thought in Scarlett's spine. "They whisper," Scarlett murmured. "In the halls, in the shadows. They say I am not worthy of your crown." The mirror water rippled. "Then prove them wrong." Scarlett closed her eyes. "How?" "The same way I did," her mother's memory replied. "You must descend into the hollow atlas." Scarlett's breath caught. The hollow atlas was no myth. It was an ancient archive buried beneath the surface of Empyra, forged by the world's first queens when the planet still sang to its people. Access to it had been lost for centuries. Some believed it was alive. "If I find it," she whispered, "what then?" "You will find your truth, and truths burn away the rot." The vision faded, but a sigil remained floating above the black water, an 8-pointed star circled by a serpent eating its tail, the crest of the first crown. Suddenly the ground trembled slightly. The planet stirred. Scarlett stood. Her path was becoming clear. Later that night, as she returned to the surface, cloaked and unseen, she found a figure waiting for her in the glass atrium. Kalis, the knight of the third horizon, and the last of the starbound order. "You're going to seek the Hollow Atlas," he said quietly, as if he too had been listening. Scarlett's gaze narrowed. "Will you try to stop me?" Kalis shook his head. "No, Highness. I was born for this journey. I go where you lead." Outside the rain stopped, but in the depths of Empyra something ancient had awakened, and it had heard her name. The sky above the luminous veil shimmered with strands of shifting blue light, like ribbons dancing across a canvas of dusk. Deep within the crystalline cliffs, hidden behind a veil of refractive energy, stood the Temple of Vyra, ancient, sentient, and older than any written record on Empyra. Few had ever seen it. Fewer had left it unchanged. Princess Scarlett stood at the threshold of the temple, her breath catching at the sight. The structure didn't resemble architecture as much as it did a dream caught in solid form. Hovering, columns that moved gently like kelp in water, luminous glyphs drifting freely in the air, and a constant hum that echoed directly in her chest, not her ears. This was the trial of the oracle, the first of 3 divine tests that stood between her and the crown ascension. She stepped forward alone, no guards, no advisors, just her, as it was meant to be. As her boot touched the shimmering stone, the world blinked. The temple interior was endless. No walls, no ceiling, just an infinite starlit void filled with floating pathways of light and memory. Scarlett's form shimmered as if she had become half-light herself. Then came the voice. Neither male nor female, neither kind nor cruel. It echoed within her soul. "Scarlett of House Elene, you seek a crown woven with both glory and burden. But to lead Empyra, you must first lead yourself through truth." The floor beneath her feet twisted. The path ahead formed, composed of translucent panels that lit up with each step. Scarlett walked, confident but cautious. Then the first vision came. A corridor opened to her left, and from it emerged a shimmering scene, her as a child, weeping in the shadow of her mother's funeral pyre. The great Queen Elivra, consumed in ceremonial flame, while nobles whispered about war and succession. Scarlett saw herself, and not the bold princess, but the fragile girl who had once begged for the crown to vanish from existence. She turned her head. The voice returned. "You carry pain wrapped in silence. Do you deny it?" "No," Scarlett whispered, "but I've built strength from it." The path lit up brighter. Next came the corridor to her right. This time, a moment not from her past, but from a possible future. Scarlett on the throne, older, colder, ruling with precision, but no compassion. Around her, advisors bowed in fear, not respect. Rebels were silenced, freedoms curtailed, and the flames of Empyra's spirit dimmed. "Is this the queen you would become if left unchecked?" Scarlett's jaw tightened. "No, that's not me." "And how will you ensure it never is?" "I'll surround myself with truth, even when it hurts. I'll never rule in isolation." The corridors dissolved. The floating path narrowed into a single beam, leading to a luminous figure in the distance, the oracle. It was not a person, but a being of pure light, faceless, androgynous, with thousands of whispering voices merging into one presence. As Scarlett stepped forward, the light pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "Then take what was always within you," said the oracle, its voice now her own. A cascade of light shot into her chest. She gasped, not in pain, but in revelation. Her mind was flooded with clarity. Faces, choices, costs, the weight of the future. She saw herself not just as a queen, but as a symbol, and symbols are not born, they are made. She collapsed to one knee, trembling, eyes wide. When she stood again, the oracle was gone. In its place floated a silver shard, smooth, sharp, pulsing with power, the first sigil, proof of her trial. Scarlett took it in her palm. As soon as her fingers closed around it, the world snapped back. She stood once more at the temple entrance. The stars overhead, the valley winds gentle. Only now her eyes glowed faintly, touched by something ancient, something divine. The first trial was complete, but deeper trials awaited, not just of spirit, but of power, blood, and choice. And somewhere in the shadows of Empyra, someone was watching. The corridors of the Crystal Keep hummed with an uneasy silence. Queen Seraphine's funeral had lasted 3 days. Thousands of Empyreans wept under the soaring crystal spires, their sorrow amplified by the shimmering skylights. That dimmed in morning, but grief had a deadline in Empyra, and ambition no patience. Scarlett stood before the Council of Ascendancy now, wearing a ceremonial mantle twice her weight. Red velvet, embroidered with a silver constellation of past queens. Her eyes, green, sharp, haunted, swept across the 12 thrones encircling her like judges in a cosmic tribunal. Each counselor was ancient by Empyrean standards, their skin fused with orosite veins, their minds uploaded to vast consciousness banks. They represented factions older than memory, the Techno Guild, the Solar Covenant, the Verdant Order, and they did not believe in easy coronations. Counselor Vexa of the Techno Guild, all platinum implants and mirrored pupils, leaned forward. Princess Scarlett, by succession you are the rightful heir. But Empyra does not bow to blood alone. You must earn your crown. Scarlett raised her chin. Then test me. Counselor Neros of the Verdant Order, robes woven from living moss and bioluminescent threads, spoke next. The Voxroot has whispered doubts. The Queen's death was unnatural. You disappeared for 6 hours the night she died. Why? Scarlett's jaw clenched. Because I was trying to save her. Silence. Even the air felt like it froze. I found the palace shield servers breached. Someone had silenced the ether alarms. The Queen was alone, unguarded. I chased a signal through the underhall tunnels, but by the time I returned, she was already gone. You expect us to believe a shadow assassin penetrated the Heartstone perimeter? Vexa asked coldly. Scarlett met her gaze. I don't expect belief, just justice, and I will find the one who did this. The council murmured among themselves, sharing silent mental channels that locked Scarlett out like a child pressing her ear to a wall. Then Councillor Marquin, the oldest among them, his voice like cracked stone, delivered the decree. You may wear the title Queen in Waiting, but until a full convergence trial is held on the imperial equinox, the crown shall remain suspended in stasis. You will rule under scrutiny. Scarlett nodded once. She would play their game. But she wouldn't just rule, she would hunt. That night, Scarlett sat alone in the Hall of Stars, once her mother's sanctuary. The ceiling was a dome of glimmering constellations, each representing a past queen. She gazed at Seraphine's star, now dimmed, marked with a violet sigil, death in suspicious circumstances. The walls whispered archived echoes. Scarlett whispered back. Play last recording of Queen Seraphine. A shimmering figure appeared before her, Seraphine's voice soft but strained. They are coming for me, not out of hate, but out of fear. They think I've grown too close to something buried, something I should not have uncovered. If I do not survive, tell Scarlett the veil is thinning. Scarlett's breath caught. The veil, the barrier between their world and the fold. A rift of forgotten technology, collapsed dimensions, and unspoken gods. It had not been mentioned in court for over a century. Something bigger than politics had killed her mother. Scarlett rose. Her path to the throne no longer ended in a crown. It led through shadows, secrets, and something ancient enough to make even Empyra tremble. And she would walk it alone, until she found the blade behind the veil. The sun over Empyra didn't rise. It shimmered into existence like a blade drawn from velvet. Above the capital city of Calaris, needle-thin towers of living glass refracted morning light into kaleidoscopic patterns across the airways. Sky trams whirred silently along magnetic currents, their sleek silver hulls streaking between skyscrapers, crowned with emerald gardens and mirror-like domes. In the distance, the stellar archive's crystalline structure caught the dawn, casting beams across the horizon. Within the tallest of the towers, the Celestine spire, Princess Scarlett stood on a cantilevered balcony, staring at the city. She might one day command. She wore a robe of translucent gold-tech weave, its patterns shifting with her breath, reflecting not just light, but biometric fluctuations, a subtle message to the court, composed, healthy, in control. But behind her eyes, the storm churned. She had always known that power on Empyra was not inherited, it was earned. The old bloodlines had become symbolic, nothing more than myth-shrouded remnants of a monarchist past. Yet, in the ancient city-state of Calaris, the people still looked to the House of Virel, a dynasty of visionaries and warriors, for hope. And Scarlett Virel was their only remaining heir. Today marked her ascension trial, the first step toward potential rule. In theory, it was a test of leadership and intellect, a simulation set in an ultra-realistic neural environment. In practice, it was something far darker, a contest of wills watched by advisors, scientists, and intelligence officials across the solar network. Failure would mean exile from political life. Success would mean stepping onto a blood-soaked ladder toward the throne of Empyra. "Your biometric stress index is rising, Your Highness," a voice echoed behind her. She turned to see Elin, her advisor drone, hovering beside the doorway. Shaped like a floating obsidian teardrop, Elin's surface flickered with pulse light as it analyzed her vitals. "I'm aware," she replied coolly, brushing a strand of crimson hair from her face. "I'm going in prepared." "You've studied the past simulations. You know the risks." "Yes," she said. "I also know none of them were built for someone like me." Inside the neural chamber, the throne-like interface pulsed with iridescent light. Scientists bowed their heads slightly as she entered, though no one dared speak. This was not the smiling girl from state banquets. This was Princess Scarlett Virel, the woman who would challenge the old systems. As she sat, the chair read her neural patterns, syncing with the cortical implants woven into her skull. Reality shifted. In a blink, the chamber disappeared. Scarlett now stood in a desolate cityscape, unlike any place on Empyra. The sky was torn, bleeding auroras. The buildings around her lay in ruin. This was the first simulation, the collapse of Empyra, a model of total failure. She had 12 hours inside this world. Her mission was to stabilize the population, negotiate with fragmented factions, and uncover the true cause of the fall. She moved through smoke-choked streets, her simulated heart racing. A group of civilians approached, holographic constructs, with real-time personalities generated by her own subconscious and the data networks of the ministry. One child clung to her mother's side, coughing. Another brandished a makeshift weapon at Scarlett, uncertain whether she was friend or foe. Scarlett crouched, extending her hands slowly. "I'm not your enemy," she said, voice steady. "Prove it," the child snapped. In the distance, gunfire erupted. Somewhere, rebel factions were already clashing. She would have to act quickly, rebuild trust, locate resources, and hold the city together. But even more pressing was the voice she heard whispering through the simulation's broken code. An anomaly, a glitch in the system, or a message. "You are not meant to save the city. You are meant to question why it burns. Scarlett froze. That line wasn't part of the war simulation. This was no longer a trial. Someone or something was watching. And the future queen of Empyra was about to uncover secrets buried deeper than the glass towers of her birth. Would you like Chapter 2 next? Or shall we also design poster art, character details, or world-building aspects like Empyra's tech or politics? The core spire, heart of Empyra's royal citadel, rose like a jagged blacktooth against the twilight sky, its surface pulsing faintly with violet circuitry. Scarlett stood at its threshold, flanked by 2 royal sentinels in chrome armor, their faces hidden behind angular visors. Despite the ceremonial stillness, the tension in the air was electric. Today was not merely tradition. Today, the crown. Resonance awaited. Inside, ancient tech whispered to itself through humming conduits and glimmering hologlyphs that floated in midair like silent ghosts. The Chamber of Echoes, so called because it was built to resonate with the energy signature of each royal heir, had remained dormant for nearly 2 centuries, until now. Scarlett stepped onto the platform in the center of the chamber, her footsteps absorbed by the sound-nullifying floor. Her long red hair was bound in ceremonial coils, but a single strand defied perfection, trailing across her pale cheek. Her eyes, sharp as starlight, scanned the circular room as if searching for something hidden in plain sight. A soft tone rang out as the walls illuminated in a cascade of amber light. The Crown Engine, a sentient AI encoded with generations of monarchic consciousness, initiated its scan. From the far wall, a silver orb floated forward, pulsing with a deep blue core. It hovered before Scarlett, then extended fine filaments that gently wrapped around her temples. Identity confirmed. Bloodline match? Absolute. Neural pattern. Divergent. Alert? Mutation present, the AI intoned. Scarlett's heart skipped. Mutation? She asked, her voice calm but razor-edged. The Crown Engine pulsed again. Your consciousness registers echoes of a signal beyond Empyra. Unknown. Origin. Dangerous potential. Power not derived from Crown or WorldNet. Proceed with caution. Suddenly the orb split into concentric rings and encased her like a holographic chrysalis. Images flashed before her eyes. Her mother's face, distorted by data blur. A strange monolith rising from an alien sea. Herself, clad in obsidian armor, standing alone beneath a shattered sky. It was not a vision. It was a data forecast, a predictive echo from the Crown's deep cognition. Scarlett gasped, staggering backward. The sentinels moved, but the orb flared bright, halting them mid-step. It spoke again. You carry the Ember signal, a call from the silent worlds. That was when Scarlett understood. Her destiny did not lie solely on the throne of Empyra. Her crown was not merely made of circuitry and power, but of questions, ones that reached beyond her planet, her people, even her own bloodline. She left the chamber silent, regal, but not unchanged. Outside, the city of Verilum glowed beneath. The twin moons, unaware that their future queen now harbored something foreign, maybe even forbidden. But Scarlett wasn't afraid. She had always felt like her world was too small. Now, the doors to something greater had begun to creak open. And in the dark corners of Empyra's network, something ancient stirred, watching, waiting.